I guess some people would call that a muscle shirt.
Well, it's a muscle shirt. It doesn't mean that I have muscles underneath it. It's a muscle shirt. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm on day 7 of, as Josh says, not eating like an asshole. And then into the gym and stuff, man. I got to get my diet back on track because the vacation was all bad. I mean, it was everything I wanted it to be. But yeah, man, it was not good for my physique.
Roger was inspired by my Hulk Hogan costume.
Hey, brother, what you gonna do with these 12-inch pythons?
12-inch
wrap around you.
Right.
So it's more than just diet. You're working out too.
Yeah. Trying to anyway. It's tough, man, because we had the gym here that I go to, and it used to be like an LA Fitness. It got bought out, whatever. And then they closed down, went out of business or whatever. So there's really only 2 other gyms in the area, and the city's just exploded. So everybody goes to this other gym, and it's the closest one to my house. It's like a mile away or whatever. And it's I thought it was going to get better because school just started up here on Monday. It's like, okay, if I go at like 10:30, 11 or whatever, it'll be, relatively dead. And dude, it's like, I don't know if these kids go to school or if they're just homeschooled or what the hell they're doing in the gym at 10:30, 11. But it's like, aren't you guys supposed to be in the gym or, in school?
What,
so it's a little
college?
bit of a pain in the ass.
Oh, you're talking during the school year.
Yeah, like high school, because high school just started back here.
Who knows whether the coaches might let them out to go do a workout. I don't know. Are there any hospitals near you, like major hospitals?
I mean, it's all relative, right? I mean, we have a whole lot of stuff within like 10 minutes. This is like 3 minutes down the road from me. So,
well, I mean, if it gets to be a problem like the crowded gym, because I cannot stand a crowded gym specifically with young people who are not really there to work out. And if they are, it's, you know how they are, the kids. But a lot of hospitals are opening like lifestyle centers where it's a gym, where doctors or physical therapists, use part of it during the day. And then the rest of the time, that's where I work out. It's like, it's a hospital gym, but it's got everything. Yeah. It's a
full-blown gym. Got everything.
A full-blown gym. It's got one of the quote unquote CrossFit rooms. The dumbbells go up to 125. It's got everything.
Wow.
But what I love about it is the clientele, dude. The clientele, there are some kids in there, but they're serious, and it's mostly old people in there, not doing the stuff I do, put it to you that way.
So why would they have like 100, and serious question, why would they have like 125-pound dumbbells in a hospital gym? Like, what's the point of that?
It's not just for people who, are in physical therapy. It's also a perk for the people in the hospital. So, they get a free membership.
Yeah, got like some yoked nurses or something in there.
Yeah. I mean, they're, the only people I've seen lift, anything close to that are the trainers that work in there. They're staffed with a bunch of trainers. So when the trainers get their chance to work out, some of those dudes are pretty big. So, but it's cool because it's a clientele. There's hardly any mirrors, which is nice. That drives the way the young folk. There aren't a lot of beautiful people that work out in there. So, besides me, of course. But yeah, so I don't know. Check it out if the gym gets too crowded. No,
that's not a bad idea.
A crowded gym.
And I like this gym because it's EOS or whatever, but it's I like it because it's got like 10 or 12 like full-blown squat racks in the back. So those are always open. I mean, you can always grab 1 or 2. And I've never seen a gym with more than like 2 or 3. Along the back wall, dude, it's 10 plus squat racks. So those are always there. But, those take up a lot of space. And, what they give up for that is, there's 2 incline benches. You get like 400 people in this gym, man. So it's like, it's always taken or whatever. So with the other machines, it's very limited. So I've been forced to do a lot more stuff, on the squat rack, overhead presses, whatever. But not that I push, any type of crazy weight, but, sometimes it's easier. It's like, hey man, I want to do inclines. I just want to get on the incline bench, and it's all like 16 to 20 year olds, so it's all kids.
Well, Josh pushes around such heavy weight. He expects everyone else to push around heavy weight. And we might have some audience feedback on this. But the discussion we had, Josh, explain to me about the re-racking the weight. Explain to the audience, I should say. You already explained to me about the re-racking the weights thing.
So we went to the Outer Banks for a week, and trying to be disciplined and working out. I got a week membership to a gym out there, and it was like $65, right? And you get the run of the place, which I think is for a week. That's great. 7 days. So I'm in there. I am probably one of the oldest people in there. And so I get done with the bench and I leave 45s on it. I strip off the other plates, re-rack those back onto the tree, and I just leave 45s on a flat bench. And some dude wanted to start chirping at me about not racking my weights, and he didn't work there. And I just kind of looked at him and I just said, "Hey man, if you can't move that bar with just 45s on it, then maybe you don't need that bench. Maybe you should go find a machine to where you can drop it down to, 20 pounds or something and move it." So I have never, I re-rack my weights, I re-rack my dumbbells, I re-rack everything, but I have never seen a problem with leaving a set of 45s on a flat bench, especially in a gym that is filled with 20 and 30-year-olds. If I'm one of the oldest dudes in there and I'm moving more weight than you, you should probably keep your mouth shut if I leave some 45s on a flat bench. That's it. That was the issue. But
What
I
if it's
guess
a chick?
I'm
Like
the
chick-
asshole. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of machines like if like we got a tricep press or something like that. Dude, I'll just leave the 45s on there because like I think even my daughter can push those things. But I don't know, man. Like the bench, leaving 45s on there. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't do 135, and a lot of females would struggle at 135.
Well, then they need to go work out somewhere. They need to go do some push-ups and get those tries to the point to where they can do 135 before they
They
start.
need to be
hopping
going
on
to
a flat
Lifetime
bench.
Fitness or Planet
Well,
Fitness and using the
no,
machines.
They need to be going to my gym because that's the reason I do re-rack the weights because of, as I mentioned, the old people, right? And there are a smattering of folks who get on the bench and they'll rack it up. They'll rack it up with 25s on each side. So yeah, I would put the weights back, but it's very dependent, right? Like if you went to like a powerlifting gym and you started re-racking all the weights, people would be pissed because it's like, you know how much time I had to spend putting all this weight
Yeah.
on this bar. So I get where you're coming from. When you said that, I was like, okay, I get it. But I guess it kind of gym dependent, right? If you're working out with a bunch of, with the females and old folks, just courtesy. But if you're working out,
So
with
next
a bunch
time
of,
when I go to my gym, I'm going to leave it with like 405 on there. I mean, I can't lift 405. I'm just going to put 405 and I'm just going to walk off. And he's like,
You're just
"Hey,
gonna
bro,
walk around, start loading up bars, and then walk out.
if you
That's
can't
your
lift
workout.
this, yeah, if you can't lift,
You know what though?
you ever see the YouTube video or the Instagram video of like that Hispanic dude that's all wrapped up and he grabs like every 45 in the gym and puts it on the bar. And he's like a quarter-inch movement. That's what I'm going to do. That's
Yeah.
going to be me.
Yeah, here, look at it this way. I leave those 45s on that bar. If you're upset because I left those 45s on that bar and you can't move it, you taking those 45s off yourself and going and re-racking them somewhere, I'm doing you a favor. I'm helping you.
Fair enough.
So, I would be super pissed. Looking at a comment on our X, I'd be super pissed if I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, ordered my chicken nuggies, aka boneless chicken wings, and there were bones in them bitches. I would be very, very, very upset.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Did you see that story?
Tell them about it.
The Ohio State Supreme Court came out and ruled that boneless, quote, boneless wings, and I agree with you, boneless wings are no more, they're chicken nuggets, can have bones in them, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. You know what? I'm a fan now. It's time to pack the court because that is absolutely ludicrous.
I haven't read the whole article, but could it be free of bones? Okay, so we all know what chicken nuggets are. That's like the hot dog of the chicken world, right? That's all the lips and booty holes, So I wonder if they're suffers serious complications from getting a bone stuck in his throat. So they're not talking about like ground up bones that they're just putting in as filler. They're talking about actual bones, dude.
We live in the dumbest of times, the absolute dumbest of times.
I'd say the
right
most
now.
incompetent of times as well.
Yeah.
I've gone to using a term that we live in an age of incompetence now, just across the board. I was thinking on the drive home, I'm like, if Elon Musk is right and we're living in a simulation, the guy who puts the patches in or does the updates, that guy went on a long break.
He works for
And
CrowdStrike now.
we need an update to the simulation, because man, all of this stuff, just the level of incompetence from the Secret Service down to people who make boneless chicken wings, putting bones in them. It's like, what is going on? It really does feel like a simulation lately. Where
The only thing is, and I didn't hear about the boneless case. The only thing with legal cases is like, and I didn't read this at all from that, but you really got to read into it, because a lot of times with those things, it's like the Supreme Court, right? They may turn it down or deny it, and you're like, oh, we're all outraged. But it's like, hey, sometimes they presented it incorrectly. They used the wrong whatever it is, and so that's why they turned it down. But I mean, yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, if I found a bone in my wing and I ordered boneless wings, I'd probably have to feign like a choking incident so I can try to get paid, which obviously did not work in this case. But yeah, dude, it's crazy.
It's crazy. We live in crazy times. I mean, boneless chicken wings now have bones in them. John Fetterman's in a suit. Like, it's absolute chaos.
What's his deal? We've talked about this several times, but like ever since his stroke, I don't know if it's like, he got hit by a bolt of lightning or whatever. And at first, I was like, I think you said it. It was like, okay, hey, it's all theater, right? But I mean, this is going on for months now, and it's like you're actually look at this way. I mean, he's starting to become the voice of reason. And 2 days in a row, I liked a BLM post on X. I mean, what the hell is going? Have we just moved that far over that people are like,
No, it's a simulation breaking down. It's a simulation. I think with Fetterman, Josh, right or wrong on this, do you think that Fetterman might be following like the Manchin formula, like that moderate Democrat, where he's, I know Josh Shapiro is very, very popular as Pennsylvania governor, but it's not, look at Ron DeSantis. He went from congressman to or senator to governor, I believe. And maybe Fetterman is like, hey, that Manchin thing seems to be turning out pretty well. And maybe he's like, because he also stood up for Bibi and gave him a few standing O's. So it's like, wow, I don't love the guy, but it's like, well, it's better than AOC or, other senators.
Possibly. Possibly. That could very well be it. Maybe Fetterman has, aspirations to become the governor of PA, or he has aspirations to, to stay, in that Senate seat. Me personally, I would probably rather be a senator than a governor. I think the job probably be a little bit easier.
You'd sit there forever.
Yeah.
And ever.
Yeah. So, but I also think part of that too is I would be curious to know what Fetterman's campaign donations look like. Is coming from, because Fetterman really didn't come out, and I say this slightly. I still don't believe the guy. I still don't trust the guy. At the end of the day, he's going to side with the Democrats on 99.9% of things. But when he came out super hard for Israel, he went hard in the paint, on October 7th, and he has not come out of it. I would take a look at who are his campaign donations coming from, who funded his campaign, and who's pulling his purse strings. Follow the money. And I bet a large percentage of it. I have no evidence to back this up, but I would bet that a large part of that probably comes from the Jewish community.
Is there a large Jewish community in Pennsylvania? Like, seriously, I don't know if there is or not. I mean, is there one?
I have no idea. I just
look at Shapiro and what you're saying with Fetterman. I mean, that would make sense, right?
I'm assuming so. I would have to look that up. Man. So I'll look that up while Luke's giving his thoughts on Fetterman and how proud Luke was that Fetterman showed up in a suit.
In a suit. Yeah, he was even wearing a tie. And that sparked up the old argument on the messages about decorum within the Senate. So is it okay, Roger? So it's okay. So y'all think suit and tie on the Senate floor. Does that apply to language as well? Because old Nancy Mace dropped the bullshit bomb a couple times in a Senate hearing. So like,
she's the House.
She's the House. They're right. So okay, but
totally
so
different.
in the House, you don't have to wear a suit and tie then, because it's just a little different.
Now, so real quick, going back to the whole Jewish thing. So it looks like DC has a large part, 8.5%. They're up there, man. They're up in the top like 7 or 8 states as far as percentage of the state that's Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have almost 500,000. Pennsylvania has almost 500,000, according to the Jewish Virtual Library. And I mean, and they're like Catholics, man. They keep pretty good records.
Compared to like Wyoming that has 1,000.
Right.
And you know, Luke's question is, you know what I do? The languages always bother me, not necessarily the cursing, but the rhetoric. I mean, and we've talked about this in a previous episode. I forget what it's covered under, but if you're on the Hill, you're basically allowed to lie. Like you cannot sue for lying. You can't sue for slander. You can just straight out lie. And as long as you don't break the like rules of decorum, I mean, there's no legal, and even that, it's all BS, but there's no legal recourse for any of that stuff, which one I have a problem with. But I do think if you're on the Hill, you're, you know, during your work hours, right? Because, you know, there's a gym there and cafeteria and things like that. It's like, hey, man, have respect for the institution. And I think you need to wear professional business attire. I mean, why not? I'm not saying it makes you any better at your job. Well, I didn't say a tie. I mean, I like the tie. You know, I do think the suit and tie, or coat and tie. But, you know, hey, man, go with a jacket with a collared shirt or something like that. I mean,
I can get with that. I can get with everything but the tie.
Ties should be in a suit and tie.
Ties are no better than powdered wigs. They're just dumb. They serve
and
no.
They wore those too.
I would be fine with powdered wigs, because here's the thing: I would use it simply as a deterrent. One, respect the institution. Respect the institution. And two, oh, you want to get elected office? Well, you better go buy you a tie, because you're gonna have to wear one every day. Oh, you don't want to wear a tie? Well, then good. Then you don't get to be at the levers of power.
Whatever. Ties are a relic. Ties are a relic. Why not a top hat and a cane too? Yeah, okay. You don't want to go get a top hat and cane, a monocle like Mr. Peanut? How about it's just dumb. It's just dumb. But I will say there is a line. There is a line. There's absolutely
people should be in suit and ties when they go to if they work in the I'd say the federal government, outside of OSHA standards, job safety stuff. If you work in the federal government, you should be in a suit and tie every day. Women should be in the equivalent, and you should be in a suit and tie if you go to church.
I think that if you're a contractor for the federal government, you should have to wear a suit and tie as well.
I agree.
I agree.
Y'all are full of it. Y'all are full of it now. You're digging in your heels. You're full of it. You're full of it. Come on. Oh man. But you bring up a good point. I don't like ties personally. I have them. I wear them when I have to. But I think they're so dumb. Like what purpose does it serve other than just to, it's like jewelry for women. It's like earrings. It just serves no purpose for men. Men should not wear ties.
So then you're good with flip flops and shorts and
no. I said there's a line. And we'd have to come.
What's the point?
Where is it?
My line is wearing something that is purposely decorative, like a tie that serves no purpose. Like the other stuff is clothing. Like, what we've worn in professional environments before, where we're presenting to people, right? Business casual. Okay, a tie serves no purpose.
Sleeves are decorative, so I should be able to go in with my no muscles in my muscle shirt and just
sleeves are decorative. No, they're not. Clothing serves a function. You know that.
I don't have to have sleeves on this, so I'm good with this. It's hot.
Clothing serves a function. You know it does.
Not the sleeve. Well, ties clothing.
No, it's not. It serves no purpose. What purpose does a tie serve?
What purpose does my sleeve serve in Arizona?
That's a good point. So
other than covering up my chicken bone
building,
my unboned chicken arms or whatever.
Well, you've got a nice layer going right now that you're trying to work off. So if you're indoors with AC in Phoenix, nice 68 to 72. You might be okay with sleeveless, but most people are more comfortable with the little long sleeve, little coat. Plus the coat's got all those pockets in it where you can keep your, you keep your vape, you can keep your dip, you can keep a little flask in there. What about that?
Matter of fact, I'm doing the tubing uniform right now. I'm just not even wearing underwear.
So you guys are all about tradition and everything. So what about taking a flask in? A nice little flask. I'm
all for it. I'd actually take a whole bottle. You should have a bottle hidden in your desk.
Well, I agree. Yeah. I do agree with that. Believe it or not. So why do you think I agree with that?
Because you like to drink?
No,
because that's how you build rapport with people. That's how you sit
Well, it
down
is,
and
it
actually
is,
have this
but
conversations and
And
discussions.
it's how you kill the
But
pain
look-
too when you hear stupid shit all day. But
we've said
Yeah.
this early on in the podcast. If you look at the actual, the bills basically for all the alcohol they drank back in the day, all the beer, wine, rum, all that stuff they drank while they were drafting the Constitution, and while they're sitting there making laws. Hey, if it was good enough for the founding fathers, it's good enough for us. So I'll meet you guys kind of halfway. If we bring alcohol back in to the legislative process, right, while they're doing it, I'm good with dressing exactly like they did back in the day, but it's got to be exactly like they dressed.
Deal.
Exactly. with the Payne Stewart, what are those called? The Payne Stewart slacks, where it's basically
like the
just
knickers or whatever. now they
knickers.
call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plaid knickers.
Yeah. What?
Hey man, I'm good with it.
Can you imagine how uncomfortable that clothing must have been? I mean, they didn't know any different, but if we had to put that stuff on now, oh God.
Yeah. You imagine wearing wool, all wool in in August up there. And I just want everybody to be very clear. I don't want this to be, Fox and Friends confusion. We said knickers, like the pants. All right. Like there can't be any, don't go trying to cancel us. All right.
We've
That
already
was,
been canceled. If you haven't figured that out by episode 1,
That was
people canceled us before they even started listening to us.
that story. That story was completely ridiculous.
Dude, people, it's the, and I don't know if it was true or not, but actually, I think I did see it on 60 Minutes with the Morgan Freeman interview. Like, how do we stop racism and yada yada? And he's like, well, stop talking about it. I mean, that's what it is. You're going to find it. It's no different than I shot that article out to you guys today. So, the Battle of Wounded Knee. There were a good number of Medal of Honor recipients from that battle. And Lloyd Austin has gone through now and ordered a review, which I don't even know how you do that. Okay. But ordered a review of those Medal of Honor recipients because they're like, well, that's not consistent with, the culture and the characteristics of our union today. And we've talked about this before, man. You start judging, history through today's lens. I mean, what's the point there? Every 10 years? I mean, is it just a constant review then? You say, okay, hey, maybe you go back 2 generations and you say 50 years. So we'll have a 50-year window where we just review everything and everything that was ever awarded or, every certificate that was given or whatever. Hey, if it's not consistent with today's views, then we just rescind it. I mean, is that what you do?
Yes. And here's how you do it. You do it every year. And the reason you do it every year, it's not just Medal of Honor, it's all awards across the federal government to include the venerable CIA. And the reason you do it every year is because that 50-year declassification rule. So now everything's declassified, released to the public. And hey, as long as we're living in clown world, let's just let the public decide who deserves what awards, right? Because in effect, that's what's going on. I'm kind of tongue in cheek there. But it's like, hey, yeah, have it coincide with declassification of documents that are 50 years old. We'll go through those and we'll just decide, okay, well, that person that got the CIA cross or whatever they give, well, that person was actually, smuggling hard black tar heroin from Afghanistan into the streets of, Philadelphia or whatever. So no, that guy, yeah, his is rescinded. Because I guarantee there's some CIA folks who got awards for the drug running, that was going on, feeding cocaine and crack to the streets of LA. I guarantee people got awards for that. So
well, and it goes.
Should those be rescinded?
It's like beyond that. Do we have nothing better to do? Like the Department of Defense has nothing better to do than to go back and review awards from what was it, like 1890 or whatever the heck it was, or 1880 or whatever year it was, but. Like you have nothing better to do. We just had to scramble jets right up over Alaska because of some Chinese and Russian aircraft. So we have nothing better to do than to go back, 100 and some odd years and review old awards to make sure that they're consistent with today's, culture.
Well, I mean, that's no different than going back and taking a look at which statues should still be standing, and so that we're gonna overlay, the culture and morals of that time period, overlay them with today's wokeness. So it's no different. And while the Department of Defense is, busy doing that because Lord knows there's, nothing else in their purview that's going on in the world that they could be focused on. Everybody will be, happy to know, and you'll sleep soundly in your beds tonight, knowing that a group of current Department of Justice officials came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Why in the world are Department of Justice officials coming out and endorsing any candidate? I mean, it's a rhetorical question for the three of us, but
It's no different than these soldiers taking a knee during the BLM protests. I mean, they allowed that, the California National Guard. I mean, that's where it's gone. As long as you agree with the narrative of the left, then you're fine. You can do that. It's if you don't agree with the narrative of the left, well, now you're just a conspiracy theorist. You're a terrorist. You're a domestic terrorist. You're an insurrectionist. You're whatever the term of the day is.
How did they? I think I saw something on that, and it wasn't the article I saw. It wasn't just Department of Justice. It was a whole slew of folks, and most of them, I think, were retired or out. Kind of a la the 51 intelligence officials. Remember that? But Josh, so did they come out and say, officially list their title and then give an endorsement, or was it just their name? Getting around the Hatch Act is what I'm saying. How did they get around that?
It was just their name, but the Hill put it out. The Hill put it out that, and there's a list of 40, and they're led by former AG Loretta Lynch. They came out just their names and quote, stakes could not be higher, and end quote, and then they're warning of the implications of another term for Trump. Me personally. I wish there's some days that I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to be president. And there's other days like I would probably, do bad things to be president. All of those individuals would be without a job. All of those individuals would probably be in a 55-gallon oil drum at the bottom of the Atlantic. So they would be gone. This is another reason why, and I know, you guys always, kind of like, oh, Josh is crazy. And some other folks, say I'm a little extreme. This is why the entire executive branch, every agency has to be purged top to bottom. Nobody stays. Not even the janitors get to stay. Everybody gets fired. And if you keep that agency, it has to be redone, completely overhauled. Nobody gets to stay. That cancer runs deep.
Let's just entertain your fantasy for a minute, okay? That would have to be a phased approach. Not for everybody. Sure. For the most part, it would be like, you know what? Boom, gone, right? For a lot of these. But I'm thinking of stuff like, Department of Energy or whatever, who actually keeps nuclear reactors running. Things like that. There are some jobs that are pretty important, right? That you have to take a phased approach, right? You wouldn't just come in and like, okay, how many federal employees are there? 2 million, 1 million, 1.5 million, something like that. No, it's more than that.
Largest employer in the United States.
Not including DOD. I mean, I'd have to look that up just the other day. I want to say it's 1.5 million or something, not including DOD. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, what do you think? How would you do that? Like, what would be the logistics of purging everything? How long would it take?
About 30 days.
Whew. Yeah, I would like to see how you'd do that. I'm not saying you couldn't, but it'd be tough.
So it's easy. You come in, you identify ahead of time, you identify the critical infrastructure. Like you said, here's a critical infrastructure. Here's the folks who have to stay, right? And then you come in, you take a look at it, and you go, okay, in 30 days, all of these people, they're gone. It's the same now. I get it. It's not the same scale, but look at what Elon did to Twitter. He came in and he fired, what was it, 75, 80% of Twitter. And guess what? It worked better.
Yeah.
The same thing. You can do the same thing with the federal government. You could come in and you could fire everybody. Yeah, we'll keep the janitors, right? You fire everybody, except for the janitors and the guy who, makes sure that, Mount Island doesn't melt down again. Other than that, man, hey man, you're gone. You're done. And you're barred from federal service, period.
Well, if you look at
unless you want to go work in the tree army, you can go join the Civilian Conservation Corps and go maintain trails in on the Appalachian Trail or something. Other than that, no, you're not getting anywhere near the levers of power ever again.
I agree with you for the most part, right? But if you look at history, where similar things like this have been done before, we know that people are lemmings, right? The term like decimation actually comes from Russian, right? If there was trouble within the ranks, right? They were talking about military coup, or maybe this general, their soldiers are grumbling a little too much and getting out of control. They would kill 1/10 of soldiers at random, 1/10 of enlisted soldiers. So they would decimate 1/10 of the forces. So it's like, if you identified everything that's critical, right? And then everything, I believe, probably, what would you say? 85% of the federal government is not critical. Federal government employees, like 85%. So it's like, I look at it like almost a cost save, even 15%, let's call it 1.5 million. Boy, that's going to be a lot to replace. It's going to be a big cost. It's going to be a big effort. My approach would be to eliminate that 85%, and among the 15% that stays, I would decimate that 15% just to send a message, and then hire that 10% vacancies. That's how I'd handle it, instead of just
Yeah, but then the problem is when you keep people, right, is you don't know who out of that 15% is the insider threat that's still left over, right? Because Cindy and budgeting that you're going to leave because, she's just part of that 15%. She's actually the one that's hopped up on cheap box wine and SSRIs, who's going to leak your meeting notes and audio of your meeting. Right, because you got to, again, man, you got to salt the earth. You got to salt the earth.
Josh, his next step is setting up his own Stasi. By the way,
we're gonna call him the Cheka.
Man, everybody's got a little dictator in him, man. And Josh's
like
little dictator
some more than
is
others.
pretty big.
Hey, so as of September 2023, there were 2.95 million U.S. federal government employees.
Does that include the military or not?
That includes the entire. So this is saying that it includes all the branches.
Okay, does it really? Because we got over 1 million people with DOD, just with the soldiers and sailors and yada yada.
So cut those, because I don't think Josh is talking about cutting the military. So just cut those. So now you're talking nearly 2 million employees.
Everybody above the rank of 04 in the military.
Okay,
everybody above the rank of 04 and all E9s.
I agree with you there. Some good apples are going to be thrown out, but the majority are bad ones. And the entire culture.
No, it's as of March 2024 from OPM, there's 2.2 million civilian federal employees.
Yeah, so it's close. Yeah. It's about 2 million. God bless, man. 85% of 2 million probably. I mean, good Lord. You look at all the agencies and sub agencies, it's ridiculous.
I hope they learn the code.
Look at the Secret Service, man.
The key is not to rehire those positions, because one, you got to look at the pool you're drawing from. With them all being back in the DC area, you just replenish with exactly you got rid of. But part of that goes back to, and we've heard folks in the legislature had this conversation where, hey, there's probably a lot of agencies in the federal government that can be eliminated. A la what Elon Musk did to Tesla. It's like, hey, what do you actually do here? Maybe there was a role for you. A lot of stuff is automated now. Do we really need you? But the problem is Republicans and Democrats, they're not going to do that, because especially when you look at the last, year, 2 years, the only thing propping up the unemployment number right now are non-American workers and federal government.
Yeah, federal government's being the largest. Hiring right now, man. You look at USA Jobs, man, it's like gangbusters. And what's scary, not getting away from your point, what's scary to me, what's interesting, I shouldn't say scary. What's interesting to me are the amount of OD&I jobs opening up. Every day there's at least 4 new positions within OD&I. A lot of them open to the public, a few of them, internal only, or interagency transfer kind of thing. But it's like, I eliminating the tops, like Josh, you're onto something with 04 and above, right? You're onto something there. So in my phased approach now, I'm thinking, well, everybody above the above the pay grade of GS13 is gone. Everybody, regardless if you're the 15% or not. But there are jobs. I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to think of jobs. I do know jobs that are like critical, involved in infrastructure. I know that there are GS, scale department, or I'm sorry, Army Corps of Engineer civilians who, similar to the nuclear reactors, keep dams, propped up and stuff. Guys with PhDs and things like that. So I do know there are a few critical ones. It's like, I don't want to fire that person that's, complete. That guy's not an insider threat. He's managing a dam in Nevada. He's
that guy gets to stay. That guy gets to stay.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, the critical infrastructure, you go through, you take a look at the critical infrastructure. They are a case-by-case basis. Just because you work for Department of Energy doesn't automatically mean you get to stay. If you're some random budget analyst in a cubicle somewhere for DOE, I don't care. You're gone. All right. Now, if you're actually flipping switches at the dam, making sure, the Colorado River doesn't, flood Vegas or whatever. Okay. Then, you're good. Yeah. Oh yeah. And to Roger's point, yeah, no, those aren't like, we're going to clean this agency out and then rehire it. No, like we're going to clean this agency out and it's done. Like we're going to turn this thing into the Hindenburg.
What about
no
Border Patrol? What about Border Patrol? What do you do with them?
Border Patrol gets all the money that's going to agencies like the FBI. They're getting
ATF.
that money. And ATF, yeah, those are gone. Border Patrol is getting that money for whatever they need. The first thing that I would do is for Border Patrol, I would issue every landowner on the border a letter of marque.
Yeah.
A letter of marque, a pallet of ammo, and a backhoe. And tell them that whatever they need to do to get to secure the border, just go ahead and do it. Whatever their conscience allows them to do, go ahead and do it.
And a pair of pliers to pull the gold teeth. So speaking of letters of marque, I was gonna ask you that. I was gonna ask you this. So given Secret Service's stellar performance on July 13th, right? What if Secret Service just was not involved in that, and there was basically someone on the presidential staff that just a very small number of people who go in, pull from local law enforcement for protection detail, and also maybe screen the population for to allow people letters of marque, like maybe a former Marine sniper or something. Hey, screen him real quick. Okay, this guy looks trustworthy. He signed up for the rally anyway. It wouldn't be any worse than what happened the other day. That's the level of incompetence. It's just
the Secret Service would be gone, completely 100% eliminated. And, presidential, vice presidential, and select individuals that the Secret Service protects, those duties would be handed over, contracted out to Eric Prince.
Yeah, good call. But you can't. See, Eric Prince wouldn't be able to do that in my administration because he'd be Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State.
That's fair.
You had to find somebody else, maybe Tom Satterley or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I know we're going through I didn't know we were doing our dream cabinet, this evening.
Well, we did catch a lot of flack. I don't know about you guys. I caught a lot of flack for we were off on the the Joe Biden still being in office or still being a candidate. As soon as that happened, dude, I got multiple texts like, man, you guys missed the mark on that one. You're not batting 1,000 this week. It's like, oof.
Well, it was fair. Okay. But your point was fair because you've been saying for years, Roger, you've been saying for years, he's not going to make it. And you stood by that. And you weren't saying he was going to make it to the end. We were just simply saying he's going to make it to next Saturday. 2 days later.
The next 7 days. The next 7 days.
I legitimately thought they were going to push him across the finish line in November. Like I legitimately thought they were going to push him across the finish line. That debate, though, and some people are saying that it was a mistake to send Joe out there into that debate. And I've been trying to tell people that was no mistake. Yep. We called it the night of the debate. That was intentional. His staff did that to him. He was set up to go out there and lay that egg. Because there's no way any professional team, campaign team, professional staffers would have allowed him to walk out on that stage like that. That guy was 100% set up. That was not a quote unquote mistake on anyone's part, other than Joe Biden's, for letting that happen to him.
Way back in 2021, early January 2021, before January 6th, a person that has some connections, but the connections have nothing to do with this prediction. This person said, I bet at some point during his presidency, they're going to take him off his meds. This person said that in early January of 2021.
Wow.
I mean, this person was spot on with that, because I agree with Josh, Roger, that I think it was intentional. And that they started the plan right then, because anyone who believes that these grassroots are so worked up and so excited over Kamala that they raised $213 million in 2 or 3 days, that doesn't just happen. They've been planning this stuff. They've been planning it out, and Kamala just seizes it just like that in 48 hours. There's no question anymore. No one's talking about Gavin Newsom. Like within 24 hours, no one was talking about that. Crazy.
Yeah, and we've been saying it's got to be over a year that his staff, people on his staff, are setting him up. Now, and I'm not talking about the low-level nugs, right? I'm talking about senior levels, his advisors. They were setting him up, because I'm going to tell you, this was apparent. His cognitive decline, was apparent back in the 2020 election. Why do you think he ran from the basement? He ran his campaign from the basement because he had an excuse, right? He had an excuse. They had a reason to keep him off the mic. And so, you can blame COVID. He does a couple little, staged appearances. There's some videos that you can go back and edit, but that's how he ran his campaign. And he didn't run his campaign from the basement because of COVID. He ran his campaign from the basement because he was already in cognitive decline. They already knew that. The dumbasses on his staff just weren't creative enough to come up with another reason to have him run from the basement again. Like, we don't really have any excuses. We kind of threw bird flu out there. That didn't really stick. We threw COVID out there again. That didn't really stick. If we just take him off the air, well, now we're just, we're getting beat up by the left that he's not even out there anymore. We got to throw him out there. And it came to the point. And some of this, I mean, like when we say he's not, like you're saying, we had no idea that we were actually talking about him, being a candidate in the next 7 days. I thought there was going to be some medical, to me, like the COVID thing, right? Hey, man, he got COVID again. There's complications. Keep him off the trail. What we don't know behind all the scenes, and I don't know if this had anything to do with it or not, but there are time limits. We talked a little bit about the ballots, and they were talking about Pennsylvania, I think is the earliest, it's the first ballot that goes out in the union, and it goes out in September, right? Which means they start printing those things, second week of August. So, not knowing all that, you say, hey, man, if, obviously, surely his advisors or somebody on his team knows that. They're like, hey, if we're going to pull the plug on this thing, we got to do it here in the next week or two, because then you may have, those states that we really need where she might not be on the ballot. So, I mean, we knew we didn't know how. We didn't know how it was going to happen. But even this, it was just like, in the matter of 24 hours, he went from God's going to have to tell me not to run to, well, hey, man, I'm just doing it for democracy and I'm not running. And he never did come out and admit why he's not running. And I still don't even think that it was a very strong endorsement for Kamala. Now he mentioned her, right? He brought her up and was like, my partner and da. But it definitely wasn't like a, hey, man, Roger's stepping down from C3 as the video editor, and Luke, man, he's the second best guy out there to do it. He's the guy that's going to take you guys into the future and the next millennia. Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't that glowing endorsement that I thought that you would have for something like that.
It's weird.
I think personally, I think they were going to try and push him across the finish line, and then they were going to oust him, if by some chance he won. But then July 13th happened. And then right after that Michigan poll came out, and that Michigan poll was the final straw. That was the final straw. They were like, absolutely not. They're like, now because before there, it's like he has a chance. Even after the debate, they're like, he still has a chance. We can clean this up. It's fine if they wanted to. I still kind of think this a little bit. They were, they trotted him out there unmedicated to, okay, hey, we're just, we're going to go ahead and start the process, in the event he does pull this off in November. And then, July 13th happens, and they see that swell, for Trump. And then that Michigan poll comes out and they're like, this is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath. And next thing you know, Joe's got COVID and Joe has to go to Delaware. And then the next time we see him, he's no longer the candidate. I don't, there was, and, the Party of Democracy, they picked a candidate that didn't get a single vote, who's going to pick a vice presidential candidate before the convention. Now they're saying that she's going to pick her VP before the convention. So that VP is going to, be, the vice presidential candidate without getting a single vote from the Democrat voters. And the Democrat voters are going to trot out there and they're going to vote for Kamala and whoever she picks as vice president, like the good lemmings they are.
Well, and I think the DNC came out and said that they gave a deadline of Saturday. So anybody who wants to challenge Kamala has to notify the DNC by Saturday for like a Tuesday cutoff or whatever. And of note, Barry still has not endorsed Kamala Harris. And according to a New York Post article, he doesn't believe that she can win.
Yeah, but she's already got who's going to oppose her, because she's already got, I think she's already got enough delegates that are committed to her to win it. So, I mean, who's going to come out and oppose her? They know they're not going to get the delegates.
Nobody's going to challenge her.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a reason for that. Let me throw this back at you because I think the reason's the same for both. So I don't think she's going to have a challenger. I want to run down her potential VP picks because here's my thought process early on with this stuff. Nobody's going to challenge her because when you look at what happened to Trump, when you look at the polls, anybody who's got aspirations of like actually being the president, like, yeah, I'm not throwing my hat in there right now. That ain't going to happen. I think when you look at the VP, you got a couple different issues. You say, well, hey, who really wants to be the VP to Kamala Harris if she actually does win, right? I mean, her staff is a train wreck. You've got people that have been quitting over the last 3 years left and right. And then you got to say, well, you know what? If I've got aspirations of my own, I don't necessarily want to be her VP. One, I don't think she can win. I don't want to tarnish my name. And then if, by the grace of God, she does win, I'm stuck with her for the next 4, maybe 8 years. So, Josh, you want to run down like a quick list of what you think, like who are the top 2, 3, 4 VP candidates that you think fits that bill? Or if you think it's different. I mean, that's me personally. I don't think you get high profile names. I don't think you get like a Whitmer. I don't think you get like a Newsom. They've got their own aspirations to be president. That ain't going to happen. So I think you go to those guys, that I'll mention later on that, you know what? They're really not going to run. If they do run, they'll never make it out of the primary. So that's kind of that B-tiered list of what I think the VP candidate's going to come out of.
Well, Josh, now that Roger asked you a question and then answered it for you, I guess I'll just go.
I didn't give a name.
So, okay. So if it's not going to be Newsom or Shapiro,
why would it be
that's
Shapiro?
what I think. That's what I think.
Well,
I mean, whatever you.
Here's why I don't think it'll be Shapiro, but here's why I think Shapiro helps her the most out of any of the candidates is Shapiro's Jewish. And after we just saw, part of the Democrats' base yesterday tear down and burn the American flag in Washington, D.C. and raise the Palestinian flag up over Union Station, she picks Shapiro. She's got problems. All right, she doesn't want to have to deal with that part of the Democrats' base any more than she has to. But I think Shapiro has and Newsom, they have national name recognition. All right, Shapiro is very popular in Pennsylvania, and she needs Pennsylvania. All right, now and Shapiro obviously helps her there. Newsom, she doesn't need California. California's locked. That's not going red anytime soon. That's probably not going to go red in our lifetime. So she doesn't need help from Newsom in California. She needs help in Pennsylvania. Shapiro gives her that. The only other two that would make any sense that would, not because VP candidates, they're not necessarily going to help you a lot per se, but they can hurt you. when you go back and you look at a lot of them. So Roy Cooper is an older guy. He's an establishment guy. He's disarming. He's got that Southern drawl. He's from Nash County, North Carolina. He grew up, on a tobacco farm. Now, his dad was not a farmer. His dad was a Democrat. His dad was a Democrat bigwig. So, don't let Roy Cooper come out and, give you the whole, bootstrap story. He lived on a farm, but it was one of those farms where he didn't have to do a whole lot of work because they had help, if you know what I mean. And so, but he's disarming, right? He's got that Southern boy drawl. He's very disarming. He's an all shucks type guy. He's not eloquent, by and large, but he comes off as a moderate. And I forget which one of y'all said it today, I believe, or somebody did. He comes off as a moderate, but he governs like a progressive. And so you really don't know what you're getting until he gets in there. And the other one would be Andy Bashir out of Kentucky. She does, she's not gonna win Kentucky. That's a red state, but that's another one of those crazy ass red states like North Carolina where they vote GOP and then they decide, oh, our governor should be should be a Democrat. They still got a lot of that blue collar union stuff there. But anyway, so I think it comes down to Andy Bashir, Shapiro, or Roy Cooper. Because Roy Cooper's out of a job at, this election. He's termed out. And again, he would pull her a lot of votes in North Carolina. Roy Cooper, if he's a VP candidate, all of a sudden North Carolina is in play. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay, and I get bringing somebody on like Josh Shapiro to hopefully ensure that you get the Pennsylvania vote. I understand that, but that's one state. Also, Josh Shapiro, you look at the flip side of what Josh said. The flip side of him being Jewish is the amount of importance the Democrat Party puts in Michigan, especially I'm blanking on the name of the Dearbornistan. Yeah, they put outweighed emphasis on Dearborn voters, right? And I will be surprised if they pick Shapiro. I think that's a smartish pick, but I'd be surprised if they pick him or JB Pritzker because he's Jewish as well out of Illinois. If you start looking at the Roy Coopers, I get what you're saying about the down home, whatever. Yeah, Milwaukee as well. Talking about Dearbornistan and Milwaukee. But Roy Cooper is the down home. He appeals to more. If you can get him out there, he appeals to more than just North Carolina. He can maybe pull some independents. I'm going to throw another name out there, Mark Kelly, not just because he's Arizona, but because he's an astronaut. Wow. Former Navy fighter pilot. And he's also, married to a woman who survived, a gunshot, and he takes care of her now. So it's like, that's heartwarming. What a great man. And he's a boring white guy who happens to be an astronaut. She needs a boring white dude, undecided / independents who are going to be blown away by the astronaut nonsense. And he's, I don't, more about Mark Kelly than I do, Roger, as far as how he runs his seat. But I think that's a name that's definitely in a hat because it's more than just Arizona, right? He appeals to a broader audience. Whereas, dude, people have never heard of Josh Shapiro. I mean, people like us have, but my mom doesn't know who he is. Half of our listeners before last week didn't know who he was, which is not a knock on him. It just doesn't have a big name recognition. You could probably make the same argument for Mark Kelly, maybe, but at least he was an astronaut. That's real easy to throw out there, pictures of him in his flight suit and stuff.
He's the dumbest astronaut I've ever heard. I didn't know he was an astronaut. God, you could be dumb and be an astronaut? Because that dude's dumb.
So I
don't know.
Of all the names that were thrown out there, and I guess Josh can answer this one, of all the names that were thrown out there, let's do the flip side. How many would actually accept the nomination to be the VP? Because I think that's a big fact. That's kind of where I was going with it. Who would actually say
Mark Kelly, Andy Bashir, and Roy Cooper.
Thanks, Josh.
Did you say Josh? I didn't hear you. I wasn't
Whatever,
listening.
dude.
I agree. I concur. I concur with Luke. It would be those three. Because, again, Roy Cooper, he's termed out. Josh Shapiro can still, I think, he can still run again. He's still got time left, and he can run again. And Mark Kelly can sit in that Senate seat, till the day he dies.
So does if Roy Cooper is the pick, does North Carolina go red with their governor, or what does that look like? What does that lineage look like out there?
So Mark Robinson is running against Josh Stein right now. And Mark Robinson is the Trump-backed, GOP candidate. He's the lieutenant governor as well. Josh Stein is the current attorney general. If Roy Cooper becomes the vice president, I think Josh Stein wins the governor's race. I really do, because Roy Cooper, again, North Carolina is one of those stupid states. We have two, both senators are GOP. It's a red state. It voted for Barack Obama in 2008. And before that, the last Democrat it voted for was, Jimmy Carter.
What?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
North Carolina is a solid red state, but they turn around and they elect a Democrat governor, which I don't get how that happens. And again,
I can tell you how it happens.
I think if Roy Cooper is the VP pick, then I think North Carolina is in play for the presidential election. And I think just due to the amount of Northerners who have moved down into the Raleigh, into the Triangle, Research Triangle area over the last couple of years because of silly COVID policies in Massachusetts and New York and everywhere. And I think that Josh Stein wins the governor's race.
Interesting.
So,
because I think that's the other side of this, right? Is also being able to backfill those positions. Maybe we give more thought to this than the campaign does, but you also have to look. Well, you don't think so?
And I think
we give a lot of thought to it. I think there are people getting paid a lot of money to put together, not necessarily polling for sure, but also, demographic studies, psychology, all this stuff.
There's people get paid a lot of money to put data together for this.
No, I know there are. I'm just wondering about her campaign.
Yeah, because you look at, so you lose that senator seat. If it was Mark Kelly, you lose the senator. Well, you don't lose the senator seat, right? The governor appoints. But how deep is your bench?
Because we have a weak pool out here. Like we have left and right is extremely weak. So you pick Kelly, like you might actually win another blue election out here with that.
Yeah. And so, and that's a question for Ohio, for DeWine, is who's filling JD Vance's seat? I don't know why DeWine hasn't already announced it yet, but to me, it's easy. Vivek Ramaswamy is now I'm appointing him as senator. That's easy. That wouldn't have been, dude, that would have been like, oh, JD's now the VP pick. Oh, the convention happened. It's official. Yeah. Hey, Vivek's filling a seat. That's it. I'm appointing it. Done. What are your questions? So you don't have to worry about that with Roy Cooper. You don't have to worry about that with Josh Shapiro. You're losing governor. Well, Roy Cooper's out anyway, but you're losing a governor in Pennsylvania. Big, who cares? At the federal level, nobody cares about that. It helps, in a sense, as far as influence and stuff goes, but you don't need, Josh Shapiro in that governor's seat. You need that Senate seat though, especially with Menendez out,
and Manchin
out. You need those seats. You can't. So I think it's going to be one of the governors. I really do.
Well, those listeners who aren't privy to our chats, that are voluminous, we'll call them voluminous at this point, are probably wondering why we've started talking about vice president picks and not talk about the elephant in the room, which it could be the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris. She burst onto the scene, huh? It's kind of funny to see what happens. It's like Josh was saying last night, I believe they do have a honeymoon period, and it's the most disgusting, gross, saccharine display of Kamala Harris adulation across the, on the left. It's just, it's gross. It's sick. It's sickening sweet, right? It's so fake, but she is in a honeymoon period, right? And Roger and I are going back. It's a honeymoon period. It's going to be bounced back. And then Josh said, well, this honeymoon better be over quick because, man, we're basically 3 months away. It's almost August. So it's like, man, I mean, so if the Trump campaign needs money to put out some pretty heinous attack ads on her, just showing everyone who she is, how she's like, I don't want to overstate it. I want to hyperbole. But if you look at where she stood over the years on the issues, especially with equality versus equity, she talks like a damn communist, far worse than Joe Biden. And it's just like, now we got, I would say worse than Hillary Clinton. Like this is a very far left candidate. And now we're looking down the barrel, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it. We're looking down the barrel of a possible, Josh says, sure, Kamala Harris presidency. I mean, how does she win, and how does she win, and how do you counter that?
She is going to, I'm calling it right now. Kamala Harris is going to win. There's no honeymoon period. We are about to have 100 days. It is going to be an all-out media blitz. The media is going to suppress the shit out of any negative news story. I mean, you take a look at GovTrack. All right, so in 2019, GovTrack is it's a nonpartisan Congress tracker who track each member of Congress and how they vote. They voted in 2019. They voted Kamala Harris as the most progressive senator ever. Think about that for a second. The most progressive senator ever. Guess what GovTrack did yesterday?
And Bernie's pissed.
Yeah, Bernie's like, what? What? What about me, dude? Yesterday, GovTrack came out. They deleted it. They cleaned their website of any mention of Kamala Harris being a progressive. And today, the founder of GovTrack, they called him to the carpet. It was like, why did you do that? He's like, well, we just didn't know if our information was, credible. That is the level that we're about to see for the next 100 days. You are going to see she is the darling. She's going to be on the cover of magazines. She is, like, I'm telling you right now, Kamala Harris is going to win this election. And it's going to, who's going to come down to? Single white women voters. That's who it's going to come down to.
Cat ladies.
Cat ladies hopped up on SSRIs and cheap box wine.
Now, I think Roger's going to probably not necessarily disagree with you, but maybe a little bit more optimistic. I'm hoping. I'm leaning toward the black pill. I'm leaning toward the black pill with Josh. But one thing I want to kick it to Roger. I know we live in a different time than 2016. I know that, and we also the population knew Hillary Clinton a lot better than it knows Kamala Harris. A lot more name recognition there. But I maintain to this day that one of the main reasons that Hillary Clinton lost is because women are catty. Women are catty. I think that is definitely a factor in this election. Now, you will never see that on any poll anywhere. You'll never hear anybody say it, but even my wife agrees with me on that. I'm like, come on. She's like, oh, yeah, I hate. I think the amount of hate that spews from my wife to Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, like Joe Biden is dwarfed. I mean, by the hate. She never talked like that about Joe Biden. It's because, hey, a lot of women are catty. So what are some other factors, Roger? I mean, what can the Trump campaign do to try to, really crank up the energy, get it back to where it was on January 14th? July 14th.
A couple of different points. So one, going back to the whole fanfare with her in the honeymoon period, I think from the Democrat base, okay, the party, I understand it, right? You're going to back your party, and every year, whoever your candidate is, it's going to be the greatest person since Jesus. Okay. Actually, I heard The View compare her they compared Joe to George Washington today. It's like, good Lord. But, so I get it. I mean, you can't be like, our candidate's all right. I mean, it's going to be the greatest person, right? So I get that. What's disgusting is the media coverage of it. And, you guys talking about GovTrack, where that's the problem that I have with it, because she is so popular and has been so popular that she didn't receive one primary win. She didn't receive one delegate vote, right, prior to all this stuff. So that's what bothers me. Is it's not necessarily the party itself. It's the media coverage of her. And in that aspect, I don't disagree with Josh. You're already seeing it. I mean, you're going to see a full-on blitz. Now, for the Trump campaign, this, if you want to put a silver lining around it, it could be a good thing. I mean, not talking about the money. The money, you got to have it. He's got to raise funds. He's got to continue to raise funds. But you don't want the Trump campaign to get lazy, because the reality is, the way, now I get it, polls aren't votes. I get it. But I'd rather be leading by 10 than down by 10. But it was getting to the point where, like, hey, man, this thing was over. Okay. And that's evident with Joe Biden dropping out. The election was over. It was done. They were already pulling funds from places like Nevada. They were trying to, they had to shore up their base in Michigan, and you're trying to pull a Hail Mary out of Pennsylvania, if you believe any of the polls, and they've got their internal pollsters. So, I think for the Trump campaign, if you look for that silver lining, you say, hey man, this is a good swift kick in the pants that, hey, you guys got to get off your ass, and you need to go on the full court press. And I think, like you brought up, Luke, you got to get information about Kamala out of there. There's a lot of material on her. A lot of material, right? The BLM riots, bailing people out, the 1,900 people or whatever she put, or 190,000 people she put in jail for marijuana charges in California, what she's done with California as the AG. Hey, we're going to go ahead and extend your, we're going to go ahead and extend your sentence because what's good for labor, not only illegal immigrants, but also, felons, right? And convicts. And of course, that's what the Kamala Harris campaign is going to go after. It's the prosecutor versus the convict. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of selling going on with that. I don't think there's a whole lot of convincing, but I think from the Trump campaign, you really got to get out there who Kamala is. Now, I think, there's, when you look at the national level, and even now, I think they showed a Reuters poll, Trump's up by like 2 points, which of course is within the margin of error. And we've said this from the very beginning. I couldn't give a crap about national polls. Bottom line is this: it comes down to Georgia and PA. Okay. I think Georgia goes Trump. I think there's that's going to happen. So then it takes it to PA. If Trump does not win Pennsylvania, there's a lot more other avenues that were open this year than there were in 2020, where maybe Michigan's in play. I'm still not sold on the whole Wisconsin, Minnesota thing. He probably pulls Arizona. He probably pulls Nevada, but those don't total up enough votes. So anyway, there's a lot of other actions, you can believe or not, whether Virginia's in play. I don't think Virginia's in play, but it comes down to Georgia and Pennsylvania. I think he takes Georgia. When you look at the polls in Pennsylvania, and again, we probably don't see the shakeout of everything until September. But if you believe any of that stuff, you say, hey, that's his path to 270. And with Kamala announcing her, being the presumptive nominee, I'm not so sure. Maybe this is just anecdotal. Does she bring a Democrat or an independent to vote for her that was not going to vote for Joe Biden before? So you take the voter that was going to sit the sideline and say, you know what? I don't like Trump, but I don't like Joe Biden either. And I'm not voting either, or I'm just going to write, Josh's name in there. In Georgia or Pennsylvania, are there enough votes there where she brings them out and says, you know what? I didn't like Joe. I didn't like Trump, or maybe I like Trump, but you know what? I like Kamala better. And I'm not sure that happens. I don't see that happening.
I think that that could happen. I think that could happen. Possibly. We'll see. It's early. I want to let this, unfold a little bit before I make any kind of, determination. Josh is a brave man, but I will say this though. Maybe I should call it now, because Josh is now on the side of Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer just endorsed Kamala Harris. So you know how often that dude's been wrong. Forget Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer endorses Kamala Harris. So, I mean, hey, that actually gives me some hope. Okay. So Josh, couple things. I'll kick it to you. What does Trump do with RFK Jr. now? The word on the street was RFK Jr. actually approached Trump about throwing his support behind Trump in exchange for a cabinet position. But the word was Trump didn't like how RFK approached him, whatever that means. But now RFK Jr., those votes are in play, in my opinion. It's like now is the time to embrace the RFK Jr. insanity, number one. Number two, returning back to Black Lives Matter, going after Kamala Harris. I know it seems like bizarre world and, there's a malfunction in the code of the matrix, but what's up with those two things? Like RFK Jr. and Black Lives Matter being all pissed at Kamala.
Well, for starters, Trump needs to swallow his pride, and he needs to go get that RFK endorsement. And
Yes.
he's got to get RFK on his side. If you don't like the way he approached you, DJT, I get it, but hey, man, check it out. You want to win? This is what you got to do. Now you can take pride in losing if you want to, but if you want a shot at winning, you have got to get those RFK votes because, like you said, they are absolutely in play at this point. As far as BLM is, they're going to come after Kamala. They are coming after Kamala right now about, nobody elected you, nobody voted for you, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? BLM's got a lot of legal woes. So BLM's going to get a memo here very shortly saying you either get on board or those legal woes will go away when we win. Or if you don't get on board and we win, those legal woes might get a little bit worse. So you pick. Right? So they're going to fall in line. I think BLM's going to fall in line. Georgia, I can't speak to Pennsylvania, but I can speak to Georgia. Black females are going to show up in Georgia for Kamala Harris. Now,
Why? They didn't show up for Stacey Abrams.
they didn't show up for Stacey Abrams because Stacey Abrams is even dumber than Kamala Harris, if that is.
The Stacey Abrams is all black.
Possible. Well, dude, they don't care.
I'm just sharpshooting you, dude. I'm just sharpshooting.
No, I get it. No, it's fine. They don't care that Kamala Harris is not actually black, that she's Indian. They don't care about that because, like you guys said, man, that's a party of first. People love first, right? The first, quote unquote, throw air quotes up here, black female president, right? It's like, okay, whatever. Especially if she, we didn't even say, booty edge. What if she? I don't think she picks him. I think that would be the dumbest pick ever. If
I wish they would pick him.
Oh, it would be great. The memes would be great.
Speaking of memes, Roger or Josh, if I saw it, you will see it shortly. If I saw it, the audience has to see it too. That's what Roger just sent me in the group text.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So go over YouTube.
One of our listeners just sent that to me.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Well, if I saw it, everybody has to see it.
They are going to go around. It's one of the things about the black community in Georgia. They're going to go around, bro. They are going to get people to the polling stations. They can't get people to go get an ID because they just don't have a way to do it. But they're going to get them to the polling station. I promise you that. Now, I will say this: there are going to be some people from the black community who, Kamala. They get in that booth. They're going to be like, nope. And they're gonna, they're gonna cast that vote for Trump, right? They'll come back out of that booth and be like, first black female president, from India. But I think Georgia. I think black females show up for Kamala in Georgia. I really do.
I'm getting really think she tired. Wins Georgia? Enough to let that she wins.
I think Georgia's going to be very close. I don't know that she wins Georgia, but I think Georgia's going to be very close.
If you think the hijinks were bad last time with the water main breaks and the cardboard or whatever it is going up around the polling centers, dude, it's going to be really bad. And I think Georgia's going to be one of those places where it's really bad.
I agree.
I'm really sick of this first black president thing. I didn't like it with Obama, and I don't like it with Kamala Harris. And why don't I like it? Because a lot of stones get thrown at a group that guys like us get lumped into. Well, you won't vote for them because they're black. You don't want a first black anything. It's like, no. I can think off the top of my head 4 or 5 candidates I'd have voted for in the course of my life that are black. For sure. All black, by the way. But the thing is, Obama was half white. Nobody talks about that. Kamala Harris is half Indian. Nobody talks about that. But they lean into that. In fact, they actually scrubbed her Wikipedia page the other day, 2 days ago. They scrubbed her Wikipedia page. You can go in and see where Wikipedia pages have been scrubbed. It's all open code. and they replaced all references to First Indian anything back when she won in California. They scrubbed that and put First Black. And it's like, look, man, my problem is you're putting the emphasis on race. I'm not. And you're leaning into one race and not the other, you know, and calling me racist for noticing. It's just, I'm tired of it, man. Let's get a, you know, at least Stacey Abrams is 100%. You know what I'm saying? Now that's legit. Let's get a legit Ben Carson in there, you know. Ben Carson, you know, back in the day, I really liked Condoleezza Rice. You know, just go down the list.
Obama wasn't black enough for you?
No. It's too light skinned. It's too light skinned. Too light skinned. Man, I'll tell you this though, guys. I would take Obama over Kamala Harris any day of the week. If you had to choose, which one are you choosing? Kamala Harris or Obama? Because at least I know
I'm choosing anarchy.
You got to choose one or the other. You can't.
She's so bad.
Would you choose Bill Clinton? Would you choose Bill Clinton or Kamala Harris?
Second term Bill Clinton. Absolutely.
Yes.
Second term Bill Clinton. Yeah. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Yep. Man, don't you miss those days of like, I didn't like Bill Clinton, but it's like, man, you look back, it's like, man, we really had it good back then. Back when Democrats were sane. Good God.
I'll tell you, dude, the United States high water mark, 1994.
94? Why 94, 95? Why 94, 95?
That was the high water mark.
But why? Why? Like, I'm not saying why. I'm saying like, what were some? A lot of people would argue it was more like 1992, and I think our listener Darren would say what you could mark where the water started receding was the grunge era, Nirvana.
Yeah,
right.
That
kind of marked the okay. That's when things started to ebb. Even though I love grunge music, it kind of signaled the end of the release of the salad days. So I'm curious why, like, you know, 94, you know, because we had just kicked ass in Desert Storm in 91, you know. So maybe it's 91 because grunge wasn't even a thing in 91, really.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, if the water is receding in 90, it starts to recede in 94, then that's automatic. That makes it the high water mark, right? Because that's where.
Well, I'm saying maybe it started receding in 92.
Yeah, maybe. I think you know. So 94, you had you know, OJ. What else you had?
Ooh, the LA riots were in 91, right?
LA riots was that 91? Yeah.
I'm going to say 91.
Yeah, so 94, like that's when the first sexual harassment came out against you know, Bill Clinton. Israel signed a peace accord with the Palestinians. The IRA called their ceasefire in Northern Ireland. So 94, you know, there's some stuff at 94. It's like, all right, but then after that, because you know, grunge, you know, started to get big with Nirvana and stuff, and that really turned a generation, you know, in the generation behind ours into the, you know, the Wall Street, you know, crowd, the what was it? The cancel Wall Street. What were those idiots called?
Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street. Yeah. God, man, that was like ages ago. That feels like ages ago too. But that was really, you know, and then the OJ trial, you know, started the downfall of the American media. I really believe that. The OJ trial and when MTV started playing reality shows and stopped playing music.
So the LA riots were 92. I want to say OJ, wasn't that 92 as well?
No.
It was 91. 94. Oh, it was 94. Okay.
Yeah, because the OJ trial was my senior year of high school.
Okay.
I graduated June of 95.
So I think we're all in agreement between 90 and 94. Like you could even say there's a window.
You're being very limited because when you look at the Attitude Era, I think we were on our way. There were some bumps, right? There were some bumps, but when you look at like the Attitude Era of WWE, that went into the late 90s before it started to fall. When you look at Jordan, right? When you look at the NBA, when you look at the NFL, those were peaking, man. Those were the 90s. I mean, again, you had some ups and downs, but I think, you know, when you talk about culturally, It's like, heck, man, we were good all the way till what, 98, 99? Give or take?
Maybe.
You could almost make an algorithm on this with all the different factors and little data points and all this stuff, and like you could use AI, and just like inject music, culture, put wrestling in there, politics.
Think about the movies. Think about the movies that came out in '94: Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank.
When did The Rock come out? When did The Rock come out?
I have no idea.
The Rock was a damn good movie. Right?
In '94,
a good movie.
No, it's a great movie. And '94 was also the year that we talk about the grunge era. That was the year that Kurt Cobain started his shotgun.
96 was when The Rock came out. Huh.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought that was like 92 when Kurt Cobain did that.
No, because Nirvana wasn't. Nirvana had just getting started in '92, right?
The first time I heard Nirvana, I was on my
94.
way.
Good call.
I was on my way to an all-night senior graduating party at the campus of a university, and that was the first time I heard Teen Spirit. And I was 92, and I've always been a little bit behind the times on trends and things like that. But Nevermind had been out for a little while. And my buddy, the song comes on the radio, and he just cranks it up. He's like, "Listen to this." I started listening to it, and I was like, "Oh my God." I knew right then things were different. I'd never heard anything like that before, and it was good. I liked it. So 92, yeah, it's fair to say it was probably 91 when people who were on the cutting edge of culture started listening to Nirvana, but I didn't hear them until 92, like May of 92.
94 was also the year that Tanya Harding smashed up Nancy Kerrigan's knee.
Now, so in 99, speaking of movies, you had Fight Club in 99. You had Saving Private Ryan in 98. You had Seven in 95. So, I mean, the 90, again, we had some bumps and some draws and some valleys and some peaks and some ridge lines, but definitely things changed after the 90s, right? We get towards the end of the 90s, it all changes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, that's without question.
Now, those are great movies. Two of the three you mentioned. Private Ryan, it falls out of what I'm going to say, but Fight Club and Seven, great movies. The first time I saw Fight Club, this is how much of a dumbass I am. The first time I watched Fight Club in the theater, I walked out saying, I didn't like that movie. It was pretentious. I was such an idiot back then because as I watched it over the years, I'm like, this is one of the best movies ever. Seven.
The Green Mile, that's in 99.
Green Mile. So those three movies,
Gump,
right?
94.
Those three movies, Green Mile, Seven, and Fight Club, are dark movies, man.
Dazed and Confused, 93, baby.
Will you let me make a point and shut your that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that even though they're great movies, and there's great movies that come out now, but those movies were dark, man. It's like a sign of things to come. It's like, all right, we're entering a different era now. We're bringing the heat. Shut your Kamala hole.
That's a big hole.
So, speaking of being behind the times, did you guys ever have this experience where you deploy for an extended amount of time, maybe six months to a year? You come back to the U.S. and the culture is completely changed. There's music out there, come on the radio or whatever, and you listen to it, and you're like, man, this is a good song. It's like, bro, this came out like 7 months ago. Where have you been? I was like, ugh.
Dude, I hear stuff.
I've been downrange listening to Nickelback albums.
Well, even like now, not so much now, but there's been times, dude, like years later, I'm like, wow, this is a great song. They're like, dude, this song's like 6 years old. I'm like, sorry, I missed half that year. That was somewhere.
So that was me coming back from Iraq from my 16-month rotation. Ooh. Right. So I was in Iraq. I was in Iraq when Katrina happened. And a lot. And I mean, granted, we had the internet, but you had one computer, for however many people, and you may get on it once every couple of days, right? There was no, smartphones weren't a thing, or anything. And so, Yeah, when I came back from that rotation, there was stuff in the news, and so I was like, "Oh, what did this happen?" People look at me, they're like, "But that happened a year ago." I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I got nothing."
The CDs that you brought with you were what you listened to, and then whatever was on AFN or whatever,
and
or
over
whatever was on the
and
server. If you
over.
could find somebody, everybody's swapping external hard drives, downloading each other's movies and music, and that hasn't been updated in however long since you've been there. But yeah, I come back and it was like, dude, that happened a year ago. I was like, I got nothing. I got nothing on that. Because like you said, it's man, if it wasn't on the server or on somebody's external hard drive, it's like I don't know what's going on.
I remember for my first couple deployments burning, first ones to Afghanistan anyway, burning a ton of CDs. Burning them, because that was still in the days of Napster and stuff, and like,
Yeah,
remember that
LimeWire.
LimeWire, and I back then I was kind of high tech, I knew how to burn CDs, I knew how to do all this stuff. I'm stuck back there. That's when I got off the train, the tech train of life was probably back in the early 2000s, but come a long way. But yeah, you burned your CDs, you have that's your playlist, because MP3s kind of weren't a thing. They like MP3 players. They were few and far between, and they got really big when Napster came out. I don't know if you remember that, but all of a sudden, okay, that's an MP3 file. What is that? Okay, it's an audio file. Okay. And then I went to Target one day. I knew that I was downloading MP3s off Napster, and all of a sudden in Target, the electronics section, they had MP3 players with the little, dongle cord. And I was like, oh, I see. And back then it would hold like 40 songs or something.
Yeah. So when I was in Iraq, my first time, my sister-in-law and my wife went in for Christmas and got me an iPod. And it was first generation iPod. Like it weighed like 5 pounds. Yeah, man, it was massive. It's like the size of my iPhone 15 now. And so it weighs like 15 pounds. And yeah, it held like I think like 100 songs, and that was my deployment playlist.
What'd you have on it? Do you remember? You remember any songs on?
It was all Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Poison, like hair band stuff. And then old country. That was what was on that iPod. It's in the house somewhere. It's in a box. It's in a box in my closet somewhere. I could probably find it. I don't know if I still have the charging cord for it, but
I remember
I'm gonna break it out and charge it.
Watching Fahrenheit 9/11. Remember that movie, Michael Moore documentary? And I'm watching it, and I was like, "This film is having kind of the opposite effect on me than its intended effect, right?" Because he was showing like the tankers who had managed to hook up an iPod to their speaker system inside the tank, and they're rolling through, causing havoc, listening to Metallica and Anthrax. And I was like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Dude, every night before we got ready to roll out, they had a little sound system set up in the Strikers. Dude, that shit was blaring.
Well, dude, so what they did, I can't remember which squadron it was, but I have a playlist that they would play as when we were about to roll out. They would do the same thing. They put it in the speakers before they turned the real music on. Remember that?
Yeah.
And they would play easy listening classics. I'm here. I got the playlist. I'll pull it up, but I named the playlist SP00230. There it is. So some of these that I remember: If You Leave Me Now, Chicago, Jerry Rafferty, Right Down the Line, Southern Nights, Just the Two of Us, All Out of Love, Just When I Needed You Most, and Dancing in the Moonlight. It was like that. That was their thing. They'd get into the zone by chilling. I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life. So but I've had that experience too, where they put on the
it was straight like Rammstein, like angry music. Like we're gonna go break stuff. Yeah. So man, those were the good old days. Those are the simple days, because deployments were simple. deployments were really simple. You ate, you slept, you worked out, and you went out on the X. That was it. And then you just rinse and repeat for however long you were there. Like deployments were really simple.
No, it is
People
true,
ask,
and it's always harder for those back home. When people are like, "Oh, you're away from your family," which we miss our families. I mean, that always sucks. But like you said, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. And especially when you look back in the day, like when my first deployment, dude, there was no internet. I mean, we were still doing the Mars messages, right? I think I got to talk to my parents once. They were setting up like some OE254 antenna, and they're like, "Hey, you can actually talk to somebody back home," and it was all like half duplex. You had to push the button or whatever on there, and that was your connectivity back to the States. But it's always tougher for those that stay back because one, there's nothing that we can do about it. You miss the family, but like you said, we sit there and we work out and we eat and we go to work, and then you rinse and repeat. And maybe you had a day off, but there's nothing to do on your day off, so you just worked out and ate, and you just didn't go out outside the wire or whatever. So yeah, man, it's of course nowadays it's connectivity. So I look back at, I missed 2 years from 1997 to 1999. I went to Korea, and I did come home on R&R for, I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. Dude, I came back in 1999, and I mean, the country just changed. Thinking back at it now, when you looked at, again, the ebbs and flows and the peaks and the valleys and this and that, the end of what I think was the golden year of our culture. I came back in 99, and, I left from San Francisco. I used to live up there at that time, but come back and it's like, man, like the world has changed a lot. So even now, dude, there's like a 2-year block there. We're like, hey, if it happened between 97 and 99 here in the States, yeah, ignorant to it.
Current generation would be in real trouble without connectivity downrange, but it would be good for them. It'd be good for them because, like Josh said, man, he hit it on the head. Those were simple. You're right, Roger, too. It was sucked for the people back. But, man, all that stress, that you feel at home, right? Especially if you have a family. There's a sadness from not being with a family, but there's also, I mean, let's be honest, there's a great deal of anxiety and stress lifted because now you're singularly focused. You're singularly focused on something. Life is simple. So you can kind of check out, and a lot of people, I ordered a shirt. He doesn't listen. One of the Chris's, he doesn't listen, but he showed up one night in a shirt that said on it, it just said, "I miss war." Yes. Yeah. Josh knew exactly the one. I ordered that shirt the other day because it's not just that, people, only veterans would get that. Veterans who, this is tough. It's tough to deconstruct. There's a lot of things. Life gets simpler. There's a certain purity about it. A lot of you are under a lot of anxiety, but a lot of anxiety is lifted. It's just, I guess it's a man thing. I don't know. It's like, it's just I don't know, Josh, maybe you can divine what I'm trying to say here. With your life was simpler coupled with Rogers, it is tougher on the people back home.
No, it is because Roger, said it perfectly. It's you are singularly focused, or you said it, you're singularly focused, and luckily, my wife's a rock star. And so, all of those things, I didn't have to worry about, what were things going to, be taken care of back here because, she had it, and there were a lot of times where, I probably put things on her that I could have taken care of, that I could have done, and should have done. But, it was, for me, it was like, and it wasn't when I got downrange that, okay, now I'm focused on this, man. I was checked out weeks before I even left home. Mentally, I was already checked out because I was already focused on what do I need to do while I'm forward. And a lot of it, there's something raw about it, about being in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, places like that. There's something raw about it. It strips people down to you don't just exist. in those places, I mean, it really is. It's you either live or you don't. And every day, it's you just don't kind of I don't know, man. It's really hard to explain. I know you
So what
guys
was
know what
your
I'm
last
saying.
night? What was your last night with the family like before you rolled out in the morning? I mean, you know, it was, hey, be here at 4 o'clock in the morning, draw your weapon, get ready. What was your last night at home? What was that like?
I mean, it was hard. We'd always do dinner, as a family, which we generally did every night anyway. But there was you could cut the air. It was palpable. There was tension in the air. It's like, hey, dad's getting ready to go away for however long. Kids are on edge. I'm on edge. Wife's on edge. Uh, and you could feel it build. You could feel it build, in the couple weeks leading up to it, because it's always, yeah, you're going, yeah, you got to deploy. Yeah, you got to deploy. And then when it's the next day, then it's like, it's real. You're like, ooh, like, yeah, that's actually tomorrow. So generally that day is, I may have went into may have popped into the office just to, do a final thing or two, but other than that, kind of hung out at the house, had a couple of beers, and then got ready to go, and but there's something raw about it. And I posted this quote the other day from Cormac McCarthy out of Blood Meridian, and for those who have not read, you've got to read it.
That's a tough read. It's a tough read. Give
Yeah,
them
man.
it's not easy.
It is not an easy read. It is not an easy read. It's not one that you're like, I'm just going to read a chapter or two before I go to bed.
Don't read it before you go to bed.
No, God, no, don't read it before you go to bed. But the quote is like, we talk about war, quote, war was always here before man was. War waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting the ultimate practitioner. And it's such a great quote. When you think about it, and you talk about, Ernest Hemingway's quote, about hunting men, just, yeah, man, it was, it's raw, but it's you feel alive when you do it.
Yeah. And so Roger, that's a good question. And what you just said at the very last, Josh, I kind of segues into what I wanted to say to answer Roger's question, because I had a little bit different than you guys. All of my first deployments, I was single. I didn't have anybody to worry about but myself, and that's how it was. And then all of a sudden, I find myself in a ready-made family with the war still going on, and I had to adjust to their anxiety about me going away, and me trying to pack down my excitement about getting out the door. Not because I didn't want to be with them. It wasn't that. It was like, I'm going, like he said in We Were Soldiers, we're going to where home was always supposed to be. That's still how I feel to this day. It's not that I don't want to be with my family, but it's just like, that's what defined me very early on with the wussy deployments to Kosovo, right? When back then you were hard if you went to Kosovo. It was like, so I had to balance that, but it was what I wanted it to be like. Going back to We Were Soldiers, what I wanted it to be like, what I imagined it was that Hollywood, where before Mel Gibson or that whatever, before Colonel Moore gets up, they're still staring in each other's eyes, or his wife is pretending like she's asleep, and then she chases him down and says, "I love you," and all that stuff, and then the lieutenant with his newborn baby. That's how Hollywood portrays it. But like Josh said, it's not like that, because you're balancing all these different things. It's not at all like Hollywood. So yeah, I had a little bit different experience than yours. But Roger, what was it like? Because you did go through that, just like Josh did. So what was it like for you? Like that last night you're going SB04,
Oh, it's horrible, dude. I mean, my first 2 deployments I did when I was single. And like he said, I mean, dude, life was good, man. I'm like, yep, getting ready to kick out the door, getting ready to rock and roll. But there's nothing like, one, I didn't own anything. it was, hey, go park your vehicle down at the motor pool. Yeah, we'll start it every couple of weeks. Whatever, dude. You little bastards didn't start that damn thing one time. Dude, I came back. I came back from my second deployment, and I showed up at like 2:00 in the morning. I go down to the motor pool to start my truck. And thank God I had an old Ford Ranger and it was a stick shift. Thank God it was a stick shift because the battery was dead. There were like cobwebs on the door. This thing had not been started in the 6 months that I left. But as a single guy, it was easy because I didn't own anything. I was like, you're rock and roll. There's some excitement, and especially for our jobs, and I'm not taking away from admin clerks or whatever, but back in those days, when the threat was different, you really didn't get a chance to do your job unless you deployed. Not the cool parts of it anyway. It changed a lot after, with GWAT and stuff like that. But then once I get married and you got kids or whatever, like the last night, dude, there was zero sleep. I mean, you're trying to, you've got a finite amount of time. You're trying to do what you can with the kids, trying to make sure things are squared away around the house. I got Jody sitting in the driveway waiting, ready for me to pull out in the morning. Just kidding. But, it's like, you've only got so many hours left, especially when you get down to where it's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And you're like, man, I got to get some sleep. You're going to have a long day traveling. But I want to stay up and be up as long as I can to spend with the family. Kids got to go to sleep. They've got school or whatever the next day, but you're trying to take care of all those little things at home so there aren't any issues. And like Josh, my wife was a rock star. She's able to, she's like, you need to just go ahead and get out of here already. I've got this. But you put the kids to bed and it's like, you're laying there with the wife and it's, man, there's no sleep. At least I didn't sleep. I'd lay there and I probably got like a, 10-minute power naps here and there or whatever. And you get up and, it's for us, there's that focus does come in because, I think both of you touched on it, especially once you get down range, the focus is on survivability. Like I need to execute my mission. I need to accomplish my mission and I need to survive. I need to go home. What's tough though, you can only imagine the mental stress not being on the other side of this, especially when you look at your kids, because my kids were a young age and Josh, your kids were young as well. I mean, and I don't know if your wife had that conversation with the kids. I mean, we did, but it's like, hey man, you walk out that door. That might be the last time that those kids see their dad. I mean, that's a reality of it, especially with where we were going and what we were doing. So I think the mental stress was, it's, you talk about like ThreatCon Delta. How long can you keep that up? 4 hours, no more than 4 hours or whatever. I mean, you can only do that for so long, man. You get to the point where, and I had a buddy when I deployed after married and kids, he's like, hey man, last night or two, if you need to stay at my place, let me know. And I was like, man, get the hell out of here. And I would never do that, but I got it. It's like, man, the amount of mental stress on me and on the family, which has got to be tenfold what it is on my mind. It's unbearable. So, I mean, I hated to leave. It's the, obviously hated to leave, didn't get much sleep, but, at the end of the day, hopefully I did everything I could, to make sure everything was taken care of just in case. And fortunately, all three of us, made it back. So, you don't want to wish that on anybody, but fortunately those days are behind us and we're doing the C3 podcast now. So I know we're running a little short or running towards the end of this. Speaking of like patriotism and going to war and battle, now it's not the same, but the mental preparation, the stress, we got the Olympics that are kicking off, right? Olympics. I think they have the opening ceremony on Saturday. And I don't know, do they actually I guess they do the opening ceremony. They don't compete till like Sunday, right? Is that like the first event?
I have no idea.
There's already stuff going on for pre-qualifying and stuff, but it's all details.
It's all fake crap. I'm talking about the actual Olympics, man. Like, hey, you made it to the dance
next week.
Okay, so you got the two flag bearers, and I don't know. Maybe they're doing this as his last hurrah or whatever, or is this a sign of a continued culture shift? So you've got two flag bearers for the United States. One is LeBron James, the male flag bearer. Everybody knows him from the NBA. And then you've got Coco Gauff, or Goff. She is a women's tennis player. And both of them, played LeBron more than Coco, but both of them played a fairly important role during the BLM riots and protests and George Floyd and all that other stuff. So, was did any of that come in anybody's mind when they picked those two, or you think they picked those two for a reason, or was it just like, hey, LeBron, you could say he's on his way out, right? Maybe he's got a couple years left. in the NBA, arguably one of the top 10 greatest players. Coco, I don't really know a whole lot about her background other than she won the U.S. Open and, the whole BLM riot thing. But is there another underlying reason they picked both of those?
I don't know. LeBron James, I saw LeBron James. I'm like, dude, y'all just barely beat South Sudan the other night.
That was horrible. It should have lost. Should have been a foul. Should have been a foul the last play. Just saying.
I don't know anything about Coco. I don't know anything about her. I haven't really given it much thought other than LeBron James. Really? LeBron James? Like Michael Jordan didn't even get to be a flag bearer, did he? I don't think he was in the 92 Olympics. It's like,
I don't think so.
Whatever. But I'm not a LeBron James fan. I don't know, Josh.
Me personally, I wouldn't let LeBron James anywhere near the United States flag. That's me though. Or maybe somebody has a sense of humor and they're going to punish him by making him, carry it, and he doesn't get to throw it on the ground or kneel on it or anything like that. So maybe they have a twisted sense of humor. I don't know. I don't know. But here's what I'll say about the Olympics. I don't care whether you like the sport or not, whichever event's going on or anything. If you are an American, your ass better be rooting for the American team. That's all I'm going to say. You better be rooting for the American team. Be rooting for anybody else. That's, some of the sports I don't care about, but I'll watch them. And guess what? I want the Americans to win because that's what we do. It's going to be, man, I want to see the miracle on ice again.
Heck yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Roger, just, back to LeBron and Coco again. I don't know who they are, whatever. But like there's a 400-meter hurdler. I can't remember her name. It's killing me. Who could be the greatest athlete in the Olympics. I can't remember her name. Josh is looking it up, or even Sha'Carri Richardson. I think that's her name, Sha'Carri. No, that's her first name. It's like, why not somebody like that, or why not just, somebody who's got an interesting story, an amateur athlete who's got an interesting story, so we can highlight their story, we can root for them. Like Josh said, it doesn't matter what the event is. Maybe there's an archer who has an outside chance at a silver. Who has an interesting backstory, they grew up on the streets of wherever or something, highlight them. LeBron's had enough time in the spotlight. F that dude. Let's highlight some of these kids who have worked so hard to get here. This is the highlight of their life. They're never going to go anywhere in archery or long jump or whatever it is. It's like, I still, even though 1992 Dream Team, I know we're kind of coming up on time here. 1992 Dream Team was one of the highlights of my life, but I'm still, even though that's one of the highlights of my life and I feel blessed to have seen it, I still think that the Olympics to me is more about amateur athletes.
Absolutely.
For me, it's fun to win. It's fun to rub everybody's face in the dirt because we do have the best athletes in the world, but highlight somebody who is never going to get that highlight again in their life. Whatever.
Yeah, I think that it was definitely a lot more competitive. And again, the world's changed. The world's gotten a lot smaller, right? We're a lot more connected. You've got players all over the world that are in the NBA and the NFL and all the other professional sports. So it's like, we had to have amateur athletes in there because we would have just destroyed everybody in everything. And now you got the pros. And I was actually, I'm like Josh, man. I mean, hey, dude, you root for the U.S. I don't care what the sport is. I don't care if it's a bum out there or whatever. And it was disheartening to watch them play South Sudan. I mean, they've had two close games, right? They had two close games. South Sudan, again, the last play, you can argue that or whatever. And I forget who they played after that, or maybe it was before, but they had two close games back to back when you're like, man, this is not the 92 Dream Team, and it's indicative of where, we've talked about the NBA before, but it's indicative of the motivations of the players in these sports nowadays.
It's the motivations and it's the constitution of the players. Remember Larry Bird's over there laying on the court with a towel under the small of his back because he's like, that dude should be in traction, and he's like, no, dude, I'm going to go drop 15 threes on these nugs because we're taking the gold medal. I don't care. I'm playing through this. And now, they're adding those things on the NFL helmets because, players are like, well, I don't want to get hit going across the middle, and you're like, what?
And
like,
I guarantee you, the agents are involved, the teams, the management are involved, where they're saying this player here, whether it's LeBron or whoever it is not going to have X amount of playing time because we don't want him to get injured.
100%.
It's not about winning. It not just about winning anymore. It's about how to, it's about the bottom line. And that's all it is.
It's disgusting.
But hey, go Team USA, man. That's all I got to say. Even what's her name? Simone Biles, who quit. Simone, it's time to redeem yourself. It's time to redeem yourself from 4 years ago. I'm rooting for her. I hope she does redeem herself. I really do. This is your chance.
Yeah, I'm going to root for her. Don't quit like Joe Biden.
Well, I want to give a shout out, and I'll pass it over to Josh. Roger says he's good to close out because he hates the audience. Josh doesn't have any shout outs because he hates the audience too. We've got a couple new listeners, Ethan and Phil. I'm going to probably appear on Ethan. He has a new podcast. It's very, very well done. But they're listening. I appreciate y'all listening. Yeah, I just appreciate you listening. We hold a lot of the same views. Went out to lunch on Sunday. It was a great time. So, and everybody else, I always bring some notes back for our production team. Yeah, exactly. Next time we talk, Phil, I need some notes because our production team, we need some work. Joking. Oh, Roger's bad. But anyway, hey guys, I really appreciate y'all listening, guys, and the two, maybe one gal that listens. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate y'all listening. Thanks for your time. And until next time, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured.